We're going to talk about that Dolphin-Bronco game. Our lead this hour coming from the Mile High City. The post-mortem on the Dolphins getting 700 yards of offense, 726 yards, and 70 points. It's the story that everyone's talking about. It's reverberating around the NFL. Sean Payton addressed the Gila monster in the room on Monday. He was asked point blank about making a coaching change, not, of course, resigning, but getting rid of some of his assistant coaches. Did you hear what Sean Payton had to say? You did not. You did not hear what Sean Payton had to say. Sean Payton said point blank, no, he said, and that wouldn't be something I'd share on a conference call if that ever were the case. So, no, the answer to your question is no. And we made it through Monday, and no announcement from the Denver Broncos that they had made a change with their defensive coaching staff. None. Zero. Zippo. So let us discuss the question, why? Let's get to the why. Why is Broncos coach Sean Payton not firing any assistant coaches after a 50-point loss against the Dolphins? So I've got Capital Vice, sourdough bread, and laughing stock. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some Rocky Mountain oysters, which Sean Payton should force all of those Bronco players to eat. Rocky Mountain oysters, they're absolutely nauseating. I ate them years ago. Disgusting. All right, so first of all, Sean Payton should have fired the defensive coordinator. That's what I would have. I would have gone in there and said, listen, Vance Joseph, I know you used to coach here and all that, and we brought you back. You're a nice guy, but you'll get hired again. But it's not you, it's us, and we've got to make a change. Somebody has to pay the price. We need a pound of flesh, and your number came up. I'm sorry, clean out your office right now. You're done. I got a nice little pink slip for you, Vance Joseph. You're out of here. And he didn't do that. The players were obviously lollygagging around. You don't allow that many yards. Anybody that ever watches football on a regular basis knows you don't allow that many yards and that many points if you're playing with maximum effort. It was a flaccid performance by the football team from Colorado. And so to answer the question again as to why Sean Payton decided not to fire anyone the day after his team gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. The reason, Capital Vice, right? If he fires Vance Joseph, it would be a blow to his pride. It would be a blow to his pride because Sean Payton is the ringmaster of the orange and blue circus in Colorado, and he would have to admit, by firing Vance Joseph, he would then have to go into the confessional booth and admit he hired the wrong defensive coordinator. And so instead of doing that, Sean Payton, he's just going to allow the malfeasance to continue. Betting on what? Why is Sean Payton going forward with Vance Joseph? Because he is betting on what's a soft spot on the schedule. As bad as the Denver Broncos are, they are going to be favored in both of their games coming up. The next two games, Denver has a very good opportunity of getting to 2-3 on the year because location. The next two quarterbacks the Broncos play are Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. That's puke and barf, back to back, belly to belly, all of that. You got a bucket of puke and a bag of barf, and that is what is up next for the Denver Broncos. And if they can't beat the Bears and the Jets over the next couple of games, then they got to fire a bunch of people. You're fired. Everyone's fired. All right, now secondly, turning the page, we go to the Twin Cities, a beautiful part of God's green earth. I had a great time in Minnesota this year, meeting so many fans of the show and just traveling around, checking out the sights and sounds of the Twin Cities and all the great outdoors and all that. And Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell, not enjoying the sights and sounds in the Twin Cities, he delivered a public ultimatum with the Vikings leading the NFL in turnovers. They're off to the 0-3 start. So Kevin O'Connell, the head coach in Minnesota, who I can't remember the time he ever said anything even mildly interesting, but here is Kevin O'Connell getting up to the dais and announcing his plan of attack. He did not hold back talking about the fumble-itis the Vikings have. Take a listen.
No, I think that's something that we're gonna fix one way or the other. Either guys are gonna do it, or we're gonna have to put other guys in the game that have ball security.
There you go. I think that's something we're going to have to fix one way or another. You're going to fix it, or we're going to have to put guys in the game that have ball security. So what is your position on the Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell's very public rebuke of the key players in Minnesota, talking about benching players, going with backups who will not turn the ball over? So I say bravo is what I say. It's about time. Don't pull any punches. Minnesota has lost 7 fumbles. That is tied for the most through 3 games in this generation of the NFL. Generation goes back about 25 years. So going back to the year 2000, we have not seen a more incompetent team in terms of the fumble-rooski than the Minnesota Vikings of this year. They're tied for the record. Quarterback Kirk Cousins, by the way, he leads the way. He's got 3 lost fumbles, also has a couple of interceptions. Now, my advice, unsolicited, overnight advice to Kevin O'Connell, my friends in Minnesota, is tough love. Go with the tough love. I go back old high school 101 from back in the old days. They don't do this anymore now because the world's gone soft. But back in the old days, and if you fumble the ball a lot, here's what I do. I hand a weighted, like, medicine ball football type thing to the players. They got to carry that around. Other players have to try to knock the medicine ball football out of their hands. And if they do, if the player drops fumble, they drop the football. All right. Then what do? Well, okay, we then punish them, and we say, you've got to hold that football like a loaf of delicious sourdough bread. You have to cuddle that. You have to massage it. You have to pet it like it's a loaf of beautiful, delicious sourdough bread. And if they continue to drop it, then we have them run sprints, do some jumping jacks, and burpees. And that's how we would handle that. Now, final thought. Let's go to Kansas City, the Paris of the Plains. Eddie didn't know that earlier. But the Paris of the Plains, where Andy Reid, Big Red Andy Reid, was very critical of the NFL during a conversation with the media this week, saying that they had gone too far while searching to call penalties against his right tackle, Jawan Taylor. This is the guy, if you remember, we talked about him earlier in the show, but you remember back in week 1 against the Lions when the internet had a heart attack. They were freaking out. They could not believe that the officials were not calling penalties on Jawan Taylor, even though he was lined up illegally. Now, Taylor did receive 2 more illegal procedure infractions for lining up off the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage. Andy Reid said, I just think they've got an eye on him, and they better keep an eye on everybody else too, Andy Reid stated, because it's to the point of being ridiculous. Close quote. So how do you interpret Andy Reid saying that he is unhappy with the inconsistency of the illegal formations and feels like his guy is being picked on? So Andy Reid is correct that his player is being picked on, right? And listen, Reid is totally flummoxed right now because the Zebras are not letting his linemen play the way that he wants his linemen to play. But why is that happening? Now, I'm not the brightest guy in the world. That's why I'm holding down the overnight time slot here. But I'm smart enough to understand why this is going on right now. Why is it happening? It is payback. It is payback from Big Brother, Big Football. Big Football's paying back Jawan Taylor because the Chiefs' offensive linemen demoralized the NFL brass in that opening game against the Lions on national television. It was an island game. And in the season opener against the Detroit football team, Jawan Taylor was lined up illegally for most of the game. And that turned the officials into the laughingstock of social media and all that. It's like, how can they allow this guy to line up illegally the entire game? What the F? I don't understand it. Makes no sense. So the last few weeks we have seen what we call the just desserts, but at the same time, in the game last night between the Eagles and Buccaneers, one of the Philadelphia offensive linemen was also lined up illegally, but yet it was not called. It was not called, and people were freaking out about that too. So there was illegal procedure in the Philadelphia game. They decided not to call it, and so here we are. at a stalemate.